channel. My name is David Chams, coming live from DS Images Studios, bringing you different types of stories, inspiring, educative, touching, and even vlog stories. So if you're watching this channel for the first time, remember to subscribe, drop a comment, and hit a like. My guest today is much familiar to you viewers, and we hosted him last time talking about reasons why second schools are being banned in Kenya, and also solutions and causes and possible solutions. So today our topic will be on universities, why they're being closed down, and also challenges being faced, then also possible solutions. So that will be our part two of our story. So without further ado, I will let my guest reintroduce himself to viewers. Of course he's familiar, but he'll have to again reintroduce himself to maybe new viewers who are watching for the first time. Yes, sir.
Thank you, David, for inviting me again to your studio. It was a pleasure talking to your viewers last time.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure today again, continuing from where we had left. My name is Mwangi Wanjumbi. I'm a professional trainer on strategy, management of change, performance management, and also leadership. I'm also a writer on the same areas. I've been published in the media for more than 100 articles, notably my column on strategy in a magazine called Small and Medium Enterprise, which lasted between 2013 and 2018 on a monthly basis, was very crucial because it made me to become a serious researcher on issues that are happening in our country. I also love solving problems, personal, organizational, and even national. Youth Enterprise Development Fund, I'm the one who gave the government a concept on exactly what to do way back in 2006. And today, I'm invited to talks, to schools, to universities, and everywhere else because of the problems that are affecting the society, which made me write the first book titled Career Dynamics in the 21st Century, way back in 2015, and also another one in 2018, which is an advancement of the first one, titled Living Beyond Survival. Sub-theme is No More Tiptoeing in Life. Today, we'll discuss more on the issues that I've discussed in my books, especially with regard to empowerment in the 21st century. And with that,
well, thank you so much and welcome once more to our show today. Mr. Mwangi, in our last show, we discussed the likely cause of banning of second schools in Kenya, and having said so, in the recent past, we have not threatened closure of public universities. Could be the cause of the challenges experienced in the second schools be related to those in universities?
Thank you for that remark. When I was writing my book, the first book, Career Dynamics in the 21st Century, I wrote it because I had noticed that more than 80% of Kenyans who are employed are dispassionate about what they do. I also noticed along the way, as I did research, I noticed that more than 50% of our graduates are unemployable. Graduates come from universities. Having come from secondary schools, climbing the ladder of success or climbing the ladder of empowerment, where they continue making choices along that path. And my own research indicated that there are 5 stages of making those choices. Some of them are in secondary school. One is when they are growing up in primary school. 3 are in secondary school. 2 are in secondary schools, and 2 are in universities. So the problems that are affecting students, okay, is about where are they going. You get to university, and then what will happen to them if more than 50% of graduates are unemployable. So you can see the problems link secondary schools and universities also. But what is happening to universities, there are no strikes, students are not responding, they are just continuing with studies, but there's a problem. Universities are no longer getting the students that they were getting before, or rather by 2016. They were getting as much students as they would want to accommodate, but there's a problem now. Maybe that is what we need to highlight, to look at in more details.
Okay, and maybe another question. What stage did the universities start to experience these challenges?
By the year 2015, if you can recall, and I've actually captured that from an article that was written by the Daily Nation about career dynamics in the 21st century. It stated that by 2015, we are getting 10,000 students from secondary schools qualifying to join university having scored A's. So we had about 10,000 A's every year until 2015. But something terrible happened after 2015, and those 10 A's disappeared.
10,000 A's?
Yes. In fact, the first year, 2016, we had 241 A's. During the time of Dr. Matiang as the CS Minister of Education. I've interacted with him, so we have had those discussions on how quality students are supposed to be produced in the school system. In the year 2017, we had 242 A's, which were genuine. Remember, 2015, there were 10,000. In 2018, there were precisely 315 A's. In 2019, there were 627 A's. Okay? And by 2020, the year 2020, there were precisely 893 A's. Now, the question is this. Students who qualify to join university in this country must have a C+ and above. Okay? So when A's reduce, the C's also reduce, which means the quantity of students that are supposed to be admitted to universities started reducing from 2016, and up to now, that continues.
So my question is, you said 2015, the country produced like 10,000 A's, and then from there onward started decreasing. What could be the possible cause, or what could be the cause of this, curve going down? Then the second question is, personally, have you had any experiences with universities for you to make those observations?
Yes. First, let me put it this way. My first observations were in 2013, even before I wrote Career Dynamics in the 21st Century. I was invited by my professor who taught me what we call total quality management at the turn of the century when I was at university. He invited me to talk to his students about how that subject, total quality management, which is about quality, applies in real life. And actually, the experience of what I gathered from students in 2013 made me start thinking about writing a book on how we are supposed to produce quality students, because I had already noticed a challenge in a university. Okay? And I did not write that book until 2015. And the writing of 2015 was reflecting on what I had noticed in 2013 and also other years on how empowerment was taking place in the country. Later on, after writing that book, 2015, I started being invited in universities, okay, to talk about my views of how empowerment is supposed to take shape in a way that people can unleash their whole performance potential, as opposed to having more than 80% of people who are employed not getting what they want in life or not succeeding in life, just being hustlers or people who are dispassionate about what they do. And universities started calling me because of my book. The professors read, then they call me. One of the universities that invited me, they invited me through their, what is called their business school. And they had a career day on 21st September 2016. And after the chairman of the department, the professor in charge, read my book, he just invited me to go and talk to his students during the career day. That is third years and fourth years. And every time I'm conducting a seminar, especially for people who are beyond secondary school, I make an observation. I gather some statistics that keep guiding me as I continue researching. And what I found in that school is that 80%, only 10% of students had made the right choices and were passionate about what they do in the business school or the courses they pursue in the business schools. Another 10% do not, just by chance, they ended up liking what they did as or what was they were admitted to pursue by what used to be called JAB, Joint Admissions Board, that was admitting university students those years. So we have 20% who like what they do, who are happy about what they do, who know their direction in life. And now we had another 80% who, very sadly, told me they are waiting for the jobs that they'll get so that they can determine what careers they pursue. Imagine that happening from a leading university in this country. I got very disturbed, and I only had some 2 or 3 other engagements with universities. But when I found that the disempowerment is so entrenched in universities, I decided to abandon going to conduct seminars or giving talks in universities and concentrated now in secondary schools. But I had some forums that also encouraged me to abandon universities. I don't know whether I can give an example of one where I was invited by a leading education organization which helps students with funding of their fees. And I was invited to go and talk in their conference, which happens every 2 years, in May 2017. Okay. And there I was talking to 100 deans of students, most of whom are professors. I was also talking to 100 student leaders from different universities, both public and private. I was also talking to 100 finance officers, again from the different universities. Okay. What I experienced is very, very memorable, and I like sharing it, because after my talk, I was sat down by one professor, and he asked me, those ideas you are talking about in your books, and talking about aligning people with natural orientations, have nothing to do with universities. Our work or our programs are aligned with market needs. And when they are aligned with market needs, natural orientations have nothing to do with what I looked at the professor and I got scared about how he has perceived what I had told all the 300 listeners. And I just asked him one very simple question. I asked him, Professor, did you ever study biology? And he told me, yes, I studied biology. Do you remember somebody called Pavlov, who was a Russian who was rearing dogs, which he was conditioning through a bell, through a bell that was ringing at 6 o'clock in the evening, and then the dogs were salivating, and after salivating, now he brings food to them. And occasionally he could ring the bell, but not bring the food, and the dogs become very confused.
Okay.
Now, having said that, I asked the professor, do you know that is what you are doing with the student in this country when you just look at the market needs? And the professor was shocked that he could get an answer like that one. And that one now made him get attracted to my book and my ideas. And in fact, I was later invited to even for an interview in one of the universities which has a TV channel. And I, because of that, and many and other universities continued acquiring my publications so that they can understand the strategy well. So I have dealt with a number of universities, and I did not continue dealing with a lot of universities after that because of seeing the level of disempowerment, how far it is as far as universities are concerned.
Okay. Now, on your one of your books, this will be Dynamics in 21st Century.
Yes.
On page 80 and 82 in the same book of 21st Century, you seem to have predicted the issues being experienced in universities. What prompted these thoughts?
Thank you for that observation, and thank you also for reading that book and understanding even the pages that come up with the issues that should be of concern even to universities.
Yes.
Having studied total quality management, I came to understand the process of quality, exactly how it happens. In fact, quality starts with the product. The beginning of the process. In our case, the human capital is the one which is relied on for productivity in the country, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The human capital needs to be quality for them to produce quality. And I have a chapter to that effect on the book titled Career Dynamics in the 21st Century. So when I noticed that there's a problem with the school system, you remember we were getting 10,000 graduates or 10,000 students in Kenya getting A's in the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education, isn't it? Now, when education authorities read my book, and one of them who read my book was the CS himself, they saw, wow, there's a process of producing quality graduates from the school system. And this process is now very straightforward. It has been described for us through this book called Career Dynamics in the 21st Century. And now, that is how the A's were reduced from 10,000 to 241 to start with. You get? And those ideas come totally directly from Career Dynamics in the 21st Century. And that is why it was approved for circulation in schools as from 2016. That is why it was also used for architecture of the new curriculum.
Okay. There's a question that you skipped.
Yes.
You said 2015, the country produced like 10,000 A's. Then from there onward started now, the curve started going down to to up to 241. 41. That's
2015.
No.
I mean 2016.
2016.
Yes, yes.
What could the cause of all this? Like.
Thank you. Now, in fact, for me even to approach the education system, is I had noticed or had become aware that exam leakage was so severe in the country, and I learned that in 2015, November, when I visited one national school. And that national school, I found the principal in distraught. He was very disturbed because all students were getting exam papers 4 days before the exam date. And that is what was happening in the school system that time. Exam leakage was so pronounced, at least by 2015. And I actually asked the principal, who had actually acquired a number of copies of my books, so I wanted to know how he has found them. And when I asked him about, when he told me about students getting exam papers 4 days before, I asked him what they are doing about it. And he told me, no. We are not doing nothing about it. But students are meeting in groups to discuss how to answer the questions. And by the time they do the exams before the day, they already know. So that is how they were passing exams. That is how the A's were so numerous, because exam leakage was a way of life in this country. But I'm very thankful to the CS then, who, after reading my book, he took serious action after knowing how quality is supposed to be produced. And I like emphasizing this because that is why my book was approved for circulations in Kenya, circulation in schools in Kenya, because of now people having realized, yes, we can produce quality students. And that has continued up to now. Okay?
Okay. University closing down.
Yes.
Number of them, right?
Yes.
In the recent possible solutions.
It is difficult for me to advise them what to do.
Okay.
But I can only give a few tips based on my scope of knowledge. One, they can only hope and pray that the quality of students produced in secondary schools, the A's will continue increasing, like has been the trend in the recent past. Now we are on 893. We started with 241 in 2016. Now we are on 893. If they continue increasing, or the quality continues going up, then universities, you have a choice, have a chance. But for that to take shape, it is going to be a bit difficult. The next thing they need to consider is maybe because they don't get enough students, they can now consider taking up students with D's for certificate courses or diploma courses instead of degree courses, and then they keep graduating them. But to what extent that you succeed, I do not know. Now, the next thing that they are likely to do is to wait for CBC to take shape, or CBC graduates to now get into university. What I can assure them is that the graduates who come to university after the CBC now matures will be polished and will be great numbers compared to what there is now, to the students who now qualify to join university. The question is this: how many universities will continue surviving with these problems without getting enough students until the CBC students qualify to join university? That's the challenge. Okay. Number 4. One of the challenges that universities experience is that they used to have something called, it used to be called parallel degree programs, or module 2. They died a natural death in public universities. And that is why universities were making their money from. They are not there anymore. Okay. So until maybe we get enough students, or maybe even import students from other countries, that could work for them. I don't know how they are able to import students from other countries.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, back to your book again.
Yes.
21st Century. Chapter 10. Employers hold capital key to empowered human capital. And then there's somewhere you quoted saying, the human capital is supposed to be the driving force behind the organization process. Elaborate.
Wow. Now, this country is still in the 20th century mentally, but physically in the 21st century. The employers are not excluded. They still think in terms of papers and degrees. And the more degrees one has, the more one is perceived to be a good performer, isn't it? Now, employers have to change their mindsets and now start focusing on natural orientations. What are the orientations of the employees they are engaging? Are they naturally aligned to what they studied? Are they naturally aligned to the careers they are pursuing? Now, until employers get to understand that, they will continue with mediocrity. They will continue with having mediocre employees. I have a case that I learned the other day where one of my daughter works, where there was a German who had a lot of papers, who was employed, and eventually he was fired because he was not meeting the required standards. Again, in the same organizations, the HR manager ended up being fired. Okay? But they had all the papers that are required to be employed, but they were not performing as expected. So employers, for them now to contribute to proper usage of the human capital, they have now to focus not just on the papers, but also the natural orientations of those papers.
So in short, are you discouraging these employers, concentrating on papers, or are you telling them, like, when the people comes in, we have learned people in Kenya, like, we have so many graduates looking for jobs.
Yes.
So are you trying to tell employer not to much look at based on skills? Or
actually, chapter 10 of that book is and 9 are application of the other chapters in the beginning of the book. Okay. And they are addressed to employers. They are addressed to the government of Kenya. They are addressed to professionals. You get? What do you do? And I have given an example of a school in this country which takes students for testing, their mental capacities, intellectuals, before they do exams and before they enroll whatever courses they want in universities. In the same chapter, I've also given an example of an accounting firm in UK which abandoned papers completely. The first thing they look at is what is the orientation of that individual, because they realize they were losing talent by considering papers. Why? The world has moved towards talent.
Now, just maybe to summarize as we roll up our program, the last question. Since you are not much you're not much empowering universities, you're not much engaged in universities, what is your next move?
Thank you for that observation.
And the second question, we have a number of universities closing down, and it's in public domain. What could be the cause of all this?
Thank you for what you have pointed out. as I said, the experiences I had with universities are that the disempowerment is at very high levels. And I realized that my sessions or my strategy of empowerment will not work well in universities. And I decided to concentrate in the school system, rather secondary school system. When secondary schools take up my books, Career Dynamics in the 21st Century, and Living Beyond Survival, No More Tiptoeing in Life, many of them call me for seminars. And I have seminars for the Form 2 class, Form 3 class, Form 4 class, and I also have seminars for teachers. So far, I have had more than 60 engagements in the recent past, and all of them are so far spread in about 12 counties. So there is little time for me to think about disempowerment in universities because the schools, the secondary schools have already put me in that engagement mood. Now, about universities, I will still insist that they either look for students from outside the country or rather from other countries, or just pray that things will work better, because they were surviving mostly on exam leakages. Remember the 10,000 students that were coming out with A's from secondary schools during Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exams, now having been reduced to 241, 242, 315, 627, and lastly 893. It means universities are not getting enough students, and that is not likely to change in the near future.
Okay.
Until maybe when the CBC is able to produce graduates from universities. So that means that there are universities which may not make a comeback and continue normally because, if they are not getting enough students, how will they finance their activities?
Okay. Last words as we wind up. Last words on that camera.
Having discussed those matters of disempowerment, the other day in the other interview, and seen that we are in the 20th century mentally and physically in the 21st century, I'll urge Kenyans to realize that the world is moving ahead. We should move with the world the way it is moving. We should all realize that we are in the current era and work on aligning ourselves, our children, and all the people in the country, even the workforce, with their natural orientations. No more considering papers and papers only. Those papers, when they come, they should be aligned with natural orientations. That is what the strategy embraced by those who read Career Dynamics in the 21st century and Living Beyond Survival are aligning with. That is what they are working on. Aligning students, aligning parents, children with the dynamics of the 21st century, as opposed to remaining in the 20th century mentally and physically in the 21st century.
Okay. Thank you so much, viewers, for watching this channel. If you are watching for the first time, remember to subscribe, drop a comment there, say something about our topic here. We are having a second time hosting our educational trainer here, giving us a lot about academics in our country, how universities, institutions schools are going through different challenges. Hope student, teacher, parent, and also lecturer have learned something from our topic. And the title of our topic is Part 2. The first, remember we had the first one about school burning and everything, and other challenges that have been occurring in recent couple of days in our secondary schools. So that brings us to end of our topic, our discussion today, and I hope to see you in the next show. So, sir, thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you.
You are still most highly welcome.
Number.
And you can give your number, maybe those that you have not.
Yes, those who want to know more on those areas or those our empowerment strategy can contact me on 0772 516210 or 0722 516210. I'm easily available. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, viewers. See you next time. Bye.